you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion, it's gotta go.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Atheist Experience Live. I'm your host, Matt Delaney. Joining me this week is Don Baker. Welcome.
Good to be here.
How you doing?
Just fine. It's been a little while since I've been on.
It's Father's Day. Today is Sunday, June 19th, 2011, so happy Father's Day to my father, who won't be watching the show, but I already called him. And to all the fathers out there, at least in America, it's Father's Day. I don't know. I'm sorry to be so USA-centric, but we are in Texas, so it's a little hard for me to see that far beyond.
Stretch your arms that far.
Beyond our blue oasis borders. This is a live public access television program sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA has weekly meetings at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road every Sunday beginning around 11 o'clock, except for the first Sunday when we have a lecture series at the Austin History Center located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. For more information about the ACA, you can visit www.atheist-community.org. There's also a frequently asked questions page. There's other ways to contact, including message boards and things like that. And if you, as this is a live call-in show, if you don't get through today or you don't want to get through today, you can email tv@atheist-community.org, and that gets to myself, the co-host, and all the people behind the scenes. Really quickly, in addition to this program, we also have The Nonprofits, which is our weekly podcast. We were live yesterday, and we had a special guest on, Matthew Chapman, a writer and a director who's also the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin. So some of you may be familiar with him from like the Nova special and the Dover trial. He was a part of that and wrote an article for Harper's. And he has a movie out called The Ledge, which I talked about before. And we saw a preview of it at the American Atheist National Convention in Des Moines. It's currently and still and will be available, I think, for a little while longer online, either video on demand and also streaming. But it's about to have its initial release. July 8th, it'll be released in LA and New York. And this is kind of a test in order to see if we can get it out to broader markets.
What's the movie about?
The movie has an atheist kind of hero, and it's a conflict between an atheist and a fundamentalist that involves a love triangle and sort of an atheist in foxholes-like test taking place to test your faith or your non-faith, or what would you be willing to do?
Sounds intriguing.
It was, I really enjoyed it. For more information, go to ledgemovie.com. And really, we're just trying to get the word out. If you're in LA and New York, of course, you know, please do what you can to help promote the film so that it can get a broader release, so that it can get down to all the little towns where we can piss off people in churches. Which, by the way, that's a good idea. Maybe call local churches and let them know.
Yay.
This is a film that, you know, is a lot of good dialogue in there that they might be interested in. Additionally, as you'll notice, I'm not actually wearing drag this week, and that's because I haven't set the date for when I'm going to do this. But we raised so much money for Camp Quest, and we beat PZ Myers, that now I have to do a show in drag, which actually I'm looking forward to. We're gonna make that both fun and educational as well, and mostly like a regular show.
Okay.
So, you know, stand by. The Atheist Community of Austin also does a number of other things, including blood drives, street cleanups, happy hours. There's dinner after the show tonight. If you are in the Austin area, any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. It'll be at El Arroyo, and they'll have the address up on the screen there in a moment. And that's all the announcements I'm going to make people suffer through. So I'll like do the pause bars. And,
Okay.
And Don, we're going to talk about
Dan
somebody
Patrick.
who just grates at me.
Yeah, he grates at me. Well, one of the reasons I'm an outspoken atheist is beliefs are important, and the reason they're important is because beliefs drive behaviors. And especially false beliefs, and especially if you aggregate them among a lot of people, beliefs can be very harmful. And I think many religions fit in this category where they promote false beliefs and cause harm. And you can turn this around too. You can look at a person's behavior and get a read on what their real beliefs are. You know, they might say they believe one thing, but when they do something else, that gives you a window into what they really believe. So today I want to look at Dan Patrick's beliefs, Dan Patrick's actual beliefs. And today I'm going to use Dan as a representative. I'm going to pick on Dan, but Dan, you know, Dan is part of a bigger contingent of folks, a type of conservative Christian who wants to use government to advance their religious beliefs on reproduction, or their religious causes on reproduction. So who is Dan Patrick? Dan Patrick is a Texas State Senator from Houston, District 7. He's been in office since 2007. He's a radio broadcaster and conservative talk show host, and he's taken a strong stance on state control of reproduction. And he's also made the statement, "I have not made a major decision without getting a green light from God." So he claims to have a direct line to God, and God's involved in all of his decisions, according to Dan. Well, recently he got a bill passed into law. It's called the Sonogram Law. It's State Bill 16, if folks want to look it up. It was passed on May 2011, pretty recently, and it will take effect September 2011. And what the bill does, it will require a physician of a woman seeking abortion to perform a sonogram, to offer her to see it, which is just fine. The doctor has to provide a mandatory verbal explanation of the fetus, and in particular, I'm going to read from the bill now. The doctor has to provide in a manner understandable to a layperson a simultaneous verbal explanation of the results of the sonogram images, including the medical description of the dimensions of the embryo or fetus, the presence of cardiac activity, and the presence of external members and internal organs. So, the doctor has to provide an audio sound of any heartbeat if that's present and available with the machines. And so what this really is sort of rubbing the nose of the one person getting the abortion into the fact that, hey, you're killing something that's alive, and that's the strategy behind this. And this bill is similar to other bills around the country, other laws around the country, where they're forcing women seeking abortions to jump through a whole bunch of different hoops, to travel multiple days, forcing them to get off of work, forcing them to watch propaganda, forcing them to suffer emotional distress, interfering with medical procedures. There was an attempt to redefine rape so that exclusion couldn't be used so easily. There's obvious attempts to harass doctors who provide abortions. It's part of the bigger picture. They're also trying to make family planning difficult. They've tried to defund and defraud family planning organizations. They've tried to increase the costs and liabilities of abortion providers. And the pro-life movement is largely religious in nature. So, although there are people on both sides, Dan Patrick has made his religious intentions very clear, claiming to be God's agent on this. And anyway, so the law, for better or worse, is already subject to a lawsuit, so we'll have to see how that all plays out. Okay, so we have Dan Patrick producing this bill, but I think Dan Patrick's true beliefs are rather confusing because, for example, he claims that he wants to reduce abortions, and that's a common claim you hear. But I believe that's a lie because there are two well-known, effective ways of doing that. Let's discuss those. The first well-known way of reducing abortions is
abstinence.
Well, there's sex education, right?
Okay.
There's encouraging contraceptive use, enabling and facilitating family planning, promoting responsibility, providing social assistance to mothers who need neonatal care and these sorts of things. All of these things actually help reduce abortions, and there are many, many countries, especially Europe, who has been very successful in these sorts of things. The U.S. has a very high abortion rate. And in fact, there are Christians, it seems, like Dan, seem to work hard to sabotage all of these things. Contraceptive use is especially taboo, and there's all sorts of games and gimmicks to try to harass women who are seeking abortions, who are in an unfortunate situation, and they're pretty vulnerable. So, and in fact, in all the first world countries, if you compare religious belief with abortion rates, those are positively correlated, which means that countries who have higher rates of religious beliefs have higher abortion rates. And so Christian policies are a proven failure to reduce abortions. So I don't believe that Dan is actually trying to reduce abortions. So it's a little bit of a mystery what he's really doing. The other way that you can reduce abortions, since I think about 75% of women seeking abortions say that they are doing so because they cannot financially support a child. One way to do that is to fund the child all the way through college. And I don't know of any Christian organization that is doing that. That would be a way that they could reduce abortions. If they truly believe that God provides, they could provide and get reimbursed from God. But we know they don't really believe that, because their behavior is different than that. So I found no organizations that Christians will do that, and so, you know, taking these two-prongs approach, you know, it seems like Christians are working overtime to actually increase the abortion rate, and one could actually say that maybe these folks are actually responsible for these abortions, and maybe they should be the ones witnessing these babies being killed. I don't know. So, in my cynical opinion, I believe that Christians want to control people's reproduction, but they don't want to have any sort of responsibility for, you know, what comes with that. And those two things go hand in hand. You can't control something and not end up being responsible for it. So there is some other issues that I want to bring up too that are kind of confusing to me. There's a lot of religious confusion in what Dan and his pals are doing. They must not believe that prayer works, because if prayer worked, they could just pray to God and have an answer to the question. But maybe they've done that. Maybe they've asked God and God hasn't done anything, so maybe they shouldn't do anything either if they really believed in God's omnipotence. Dan must be pretty sure that God and his church are powerless to control the flocks of the church. Otherwise, why co-opt the state government in order to make your religious dogma part of our state laws? Why would you need to do that if God and the church could do that? Dan and these pals clearly don't believe in church-state separation, and they're actively sabotaging the Constitution by shoving their religious dogma down the throats of non-religious people. Dan claims to follow a God, but God is actually the biggest abortionist. If you read in the Bible, he's killing kids all the time, killing genocide during the flood and these sorts of things. And you know, there's a statistic that about half of all embryos don't implant. And who's responsible for that? God must be, right? If God can control everything, he must be the biggest abortionist. So why are we? If you're against abortion, why are you worshiping this God? I'm confused. And God, in his infinite wisdom, knew that Dan couldn't handle control over a single uterus, right? Otherwise, he would have given him one. And it seems like we should honor this divine wisdom by keeping him from controlling all uteruses. Let's see. Dan and his pals seem to be certain that their God can't talk directly to the woman involved, and maybe the woman is following God's orders to kill the kid, just like Andrea Yates or Abraham or one of those folks. You know, yeah. It's a big presumption to say that you know better than these women do.
The men who presume to speak for God.
Right. And Dan seems to think that abortion is killing children, but worships a God who did that to his son, who killed his own son, which is kind of the central tenet of Christianity. And Dan actually had a very odd quote. Let's see if I can find it. He said, the good news, this is after the law was passed, the good news is through the blood of Jesus Christ, he forgives, and women can have have aborted children, women who have aborted children need to know that message. And I believe that this can be the beginning of the end of 75,000 abortions that we have every year in Texas. So he thinks there's a bunch of ironies here, right? So he says that if you're Christian, there's no penalty for abortion because Jesus forgives you. And then he's also claiming that God killed his kid because, and that sort of has something to do with you not killing yours or you're killing yours. It's a little confused. I'm kind of confused by that. And he's also saying that God can enforce his own laws, so the states have to do that based on in opposition to the U.S. Constitution. So I'm just very confused by the whole thing. Dan and his friends don't believe that the Bible makes it very clear that man's children are, and his wives, plural, are his disposable property to kill, sell into slavery, have incest with, or whatever. Dan doesn't seem to realize that causing a miscarriage is listed as a property crime against the father in the Bible in Exodus 21, verse 22. So there's a whole bunch of things here. Dan claims to follow Jesus, but supposedly who supposedly encourage compassion for the poor, but these Christian policies actually create poor people. So I don't believe that they actually really follow Jesus that well if they're actually out creating poor people. So I'm just very confused by all this. There's no religious exemption for this law. So in 1 Corinthians 7:29, Paul says not to have babies as it will complicate the second coming. So there's a perfectly valid religious reason to have an abortion if you look at the right place in the Bible. Anyway, so I really think that Dan is kind of confused at so many levels that abortion is these abortion laws are very much at odds with their stated priorities. The people behind them have other motives. I believe I know what they are, but I'd encourage folks to call in and try to explain what these folks' motives might be. These laws are ineffective and they're very harmful. And so call in and let's chat about it.
Yeah, and at a minimum, all they've really done is increase the price and the hoops that you have to jump through, the cumbersomeness of actually going through and getting this medical procedure. So,
yep.
Which in most cases, by the way, the overwhelming majority of women who get an abortion, it's prior to the 12th week.
Yes.
It's
very early.
Very early, and so there's not really that much to take a picture of or show them, and it's one of these things of they're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill type, situation.
Yeah.
So we got callers on the line. I guess we'll go ahead and get started right away with Charles. How are you?
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you guys very much because only recently I came to accept that I'm an atheist, and I've been watching your many shows, and it's good to know I'm not like the only atheist out there, and you use logic and sense to describe the atheist position, and it's been very, very helpful for me, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to hear that.
And I had a couple of quick questions for you. There was one thing about Christianity I have a hard time understanding. Christians would tell me that I need to accept Jesus Christ to get his forgiveness. And I'm curious, what do I need to be forgiven for? Because according to the Christian story, he was crucified, and at that point forgave everyone, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Why do you guys do this to me? Why do you put me into the position of having to pretend to defend the batshit crazy ideas of their theology? Okay,
it's a racist sin.
I'm trying to understand.
Generally, within Orthodox Christianity, the act will suffice to compensate for any and all sin, but only if you accept this. It's like if I offer to buy a round of drinks for everybody in the house, you're only going to get your drink if you say thank you first, I guess.
Oh my goodness! And even though I'm a teacher, I work with special needs students. I try to be a good person, but I don't believe in Jesus. So,
then you're a failure.
Oh my goodness!
But you're in good company.
Oh my goodness! Oh, okay.
We'll drink a toast to you in hell. Yeah.
I can't see any compelling reason to follow the Christian religion apart from its superstitious elements. I just find it to be very incoherent.
Yeah.
and illogical. And that touches on my second last question I want to ask you. I'm curious about the nature of cults. Like, what would be a cult? Because members of different religious groups would call other religious groups that they don't care for, they call them cults. But
yes.
I consider all religions to be cults. And I'm just curious, in your opinion, how would you define a cult?
They're all cults.
They're all cults.
Yeah. A cult is the smaller religion when viewed from the bigger religion.
Okay.
But there are some tactics, though, that there's definitions, but they're a little squishy, and I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, and in a more kind of colloquial sense, when we talk about cults, we're talking about groups that go out of their way to segregate themselves from everybody else.
Isolation is a big thing. Yeah.
Isolation is huge, where people are no longer permitted to talk to their families, things like that. And most of the major religions don't actually bother to do that. Okay. But they do it in a different way. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at conventional Christianity, you can go to any Christian church, and if you stay there long enough, you'll hear them say things like being of this world but not in it. Mm-hmm. And so they've got this altered mindset that they're in this world and walking to and fro in it, but they are separate in some sense. They're still forced to deal with the rest of us, so they're not completely separate. They know they have to interact. It's this practical reality being overlaid over the kind of metaphysical aspect of their religion. So they don't go to the extremes that some of the things that we would normally label cults go to. But I don't know that there's any meaningful difference other than harm and the difficulty in escaping them. For example, anybody can stop going to their Southern Baptist church whenever they want. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get,
some social penalties.
The deacons will come out and check to make sure you're doing okay, and we'd like to have you back. But you can say, you know what, the heck with you guys. I've decided I'm going to go to this other church. In the groups that we normally identify with as cults, it is hard to escape. If they're not physically restraining you, they are financially restraining you. They are doing everything in their power to keep you in, and that's one of the reasons for the segregation.
Control's a bigger thing. Yeah.
If you don't have communications with your family and your other support networks, all of a sudden they become your only support network, and it becomes this kind of insular controlling device.
Mm-hmm. That's some very good points. Well, in my family, I'm estranged from a sibling who is a born again Christian, and unfortunately, my brother has taken his religion to mean he needs to hate everyone. He hates gays, he hates immigrants, and everything. But he doesn't go to church, and he doesn't necessarily read the Bible. And it seems to me that he has like a cult mindset, even though he doesn't belong to any particular church cult. So I'm curious, is it possible that like the mindset of a person who accepts religion could in itself be a cult, or would that be something completely different?
I don't know that I'd put that in the cult category. I mean, could you have a cult of one? Possibly. You're a hermit.
Well, there's certainly mind games, right? I think the common denominator is mind games here, right?
I think we shifted, though, from talking about what cults do and how cults operate in comparison to religions that don't get identified as cults, to specific doctrines. Okay. And so when you're talking about your sibling who, hates all of these different people, now we're talking about essentially the doctrines that he accepts, and it may not mesh with any conventional version of Christianity outside of like the KKK, which, by the way, is a Christian group. So maybe he just hasn't found them yet. Okay. Maybe if he found, the 4 or 5 Klan members that are still surviving in his area, maybe they would get together and form a new KKK cult like that.
I don't know. I think this hate of homosexuals or whatever is pretty common.
That definitely goes beyond. I was just specifically talking about the diminished KKK. But anyway, thanks a lot for calling, Charles. I appreciate it.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks. We've got, I think, on a similar note, Anton, you there?
Hey, you guys there?
We are here.
Oh, wow, this is pretty surreal. I'm walking to Generation Atheist right now, and I've been listening to your show, and I was also listening to Nonprofits.
See, that's going to scare you, because when you said you were listening to another show, I was getting ready to hang up on you, but since that one also had us on it, I'll let it pass.
That's right.
Great. So I was at first a little concerned that my topic is kind of irrelevant to all of the abortion talk with the laws about abortion, but
Yeah, the last caller teed it up for you.
exactly. No, well, there's two things. One is the nature of beliefs that are dangerous to people, and then as the last caller said about cults, and I'm glad, Matt, that you said. Sorry, I'm hearing my voice in the show. Anyway, I'm glad, Matt, that you said about isolation with cults, because I would actually argue that the caller's definition was a little bit off, because as I had in my article that you read, the Family International murdered my wife. My late wife was raised in the Family International, which specifically forbade people from ever interacting with society, period.
Right.
And they actually had very specific policies about what would happen if you chose to interact. And
That's
it was
sad.
I'm sorry?
That's sad.
Well,
She escaped,
it was
though.
basic ostracization. Like, they would teach the children born in the cult that everything outside of the cult was what they called systemites. So they were part of the system that was part of the devil or something like that. And so they basically taught the kids that if you leave, you will be killed or you'll be cursed or something along those lines.
Yeah, scare tactics.
Yeah, exactly. Now, technically speaking, you were free to leave. Oh no, I'm serious. I mean, my late wife said several times, "Oh yeah, they told us we were free to leave," but the practicality of it was, as I said in my article, you were raised in the cult, you were taught by the cult. I'm sorry?
Nothing. Keep going.
Hello?
You're still on.
Oh, okay. So I heard about a bunch of background. So anyway, because you were raised in the cult and you were taught by the cult, you didn't have anything like a standard education. So when kids became adults, they didn't have things like high school diplomas or college educations or resumes for work. So if you chose to leave the cult, you didn't have the basic things that we all take for granted. So
Yeah,
you
that's
couldn't
sad.
necessarily survive in society if you chose to enter it.
Yeah, that's really sad.
So, the isolation thing is one. Another huge one, which I think is arguable with most religions, like, Catholicism and the Pope, was that the founder of the family, David Berg, he was treated as a god. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so
this sort of
still more
thing is
feedback.
common, right? Is that somebody is an ultimate authority, and you're not to question them, and you're supposed to follow
Exactly.
orders. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, he basically just handed out policies in the form of what he called Mo letters, Mo being short for Moses David, his other name. And they were just policy. You had to follow them. You couldn't question them. And he would often just make stuff up and say, this is the way it is. And there we go. That
That's
was the way it
common.
had to be.
Yeah. Muhammad
So,
did that.
now I'm trying to think of other features like that. I mean, those are the two main things that separate religions from cults. But also, I think just strange policies like the Family International preached and considered perfectly common for adults, especially men, to have sex with children as young as 5 years old. And this was not considered weird or strange or anything. This is just the way it was. And if you were chosen by an adult, you did not have the right of choice. You couldn't say, I don't want to have sex with you. You just had to.
Yeah.
So, there's at least, thousands and thousands of kids who are raised in this, and so they're very sexually confused into their adulthood because they were taught by their native society this is a perfectly natural thing to do, and that they are wrong for even doubting or questioning it.
Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the main stuff about the Family International that I wanted to communicate to you guys. And
So what's the name of it? The Family
The Family
International.
International.
I hadn't heard of
so,
that.
unfortunately most people haven't, which is why I wrote my article for Support Atheism and Atheist Connect, because most people haven't heard of this, even though, and this is public information, but people like River Phoenix and Rose McGowan and Lee Phoenix, or as you know now, Joaquin Phoenix, were all members. And I know this because my late wife was in the same commune as them. So it's not very well known, but I'm sorry, my point was it was founded as the Children of God, and then throughout the years in the 70s, they tended to change their name for whatever reason, possibly, I don't know, avoiding being named in lawsuits or something like that. I'm not sure. But, yeah, now they're known as Family International. They're trying to become a so-called mainstream Christian religion, and they actually have a pretty, I guess you would call it standard PR movement or thing. I don't know what you call it, because they have a website that looks like, you know, anybody else's website. It looks professional. Yeah. It doesn't look like a fringe cult. And, in fact, they don't have anything about their policies from the past on there. Now, other sites like xfamily.org, X, just the letter X, family.org, has all of the material that they, you know, accumulated throughout the years, pictures and drawings and these Mo letters that I mentioned.
Okay.
Cool. Well, at least you know, one thing about the internet is that it ends up being kind of the great equalizer,
yes,
so that we can get information out. A lot of the smaller cults, you know, I mean, they get investigated, but it's really difficult to make the case sometimes. And I mean, we have a hard enough time getting the Catholic Church, amongst others, to take responsibility for their, you know, acts and supporting and shuffling around pedophile priests and all these problems. It's taking a long time to actually get action on the bigger organizations. Usually it's a little easier to at least push action on the smaller, but it's harder to investigate because everything is so private and so separated.
And in fact, with the Catholic Church, it's about easier because they actually interact with society.
Yeah.
They are subject to laws within the countries that they, you know, are active in.
Well,
the Family International is communal, and it basically hides in whatever country it's in, you know, whatever cell we're talking about. And so there really isn't anything legally that can be done because, of course, if someone who lives in America was abused as a child in, say, Egypt, well, that involves America and Egypt.
Right.
So America would have to go to Egypt and say, hey, this thing that happened 10 years ago, we need you to extradite this person whose name we don't really even know because she's using an alias.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but if children are being harmed in the U.S., there are things that can be done.
Oh,
right?
Of course, yeah, in the U.S., which is great. But yeah, I mean, most of the crimes that CFI committed were all international, and so unless the home country, be it Egypt or Iran, is willing to go after them, then there's nothing to be done. And in some cases, I can't remember which country it was, but you could find out if you look it up. They were actually in cahoots with the family, because the family was basically paying them off to look the other way and even support these policies.
Yep.
So,
yep, these things happen. Yep.
So there's a lot of investigative
exactly.
stuff. Well, thanks a lot for calling in to give us the links and stuff. Hopefully we get a little bit more information out, and maybe some investigations will be forthcoming.
Well, I appreciate that, but I frankly doubt it. I think the only thing that can happen is what you guys said, is the internet, because I've had legal experts tell me that there really is nothing that can be done. It's just a matter of the healing process, be it people going to therapy or whatever you want to call it. And before I go, do you guys mind if I drop a couple links on you now?
Real quick.
No problem. So the article first appeared on supportatheism.com. That's all one word. Second appeared on atheistconnect.org. And my personal one is atheistasshole.com. No dashes, no dots, just atheist asshole. And as I mentioned before, all Family International material that anybody would want to look at is at xfamily.org. X, just the letter X.
Cool.
Okay.
Great. Thanks a lot for calling.
Thank you guys so much.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Take care, Anton.
We've got, is it Jesus? Hello?
Hello?
Is this Jesus?
Yes, is this Matt?
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, how are you, Matt?
Fine. What's going on in the background? It sounds like you're at a dance or something.
No, I'm very angry because you keep spreading all these atheists around.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're going to talk, you're probably going to want to turn down the stream that you're listening to, because the audio is absolutely crap and I can hear myself after the fact. So what are you?
Sorry.
What are you angry about? Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know why you were so angry spreading all this atheist around.
I'm not. Well, I suppose I'm angry to some extent, but I don't know what you mean by spreading atheists around.
Well, yes, people keep calling your show and saying that they converted to atheism.
Yeah. A lot of people give up their religious beliefs once they actually understand the world that we live in and begin to grasp critical thinking and skepticism, reason, look at the evidence, what science has discovered. All of a sudden, superstitions kind of melt away, and people realize that they no longer have any good reason to believe those things.
Yes, Matt, but science doesn't give you certainty.
Nothing is going to give you certainty. You
Lord
have
Christ does give you certainty. The Lord gives you certainty.
No. What you have is an illusion of certainty, because until you can actually demonstrate it, you have nothing.
Matt, look at the things it says in the Bible.
I don't believe you for a second, by the way. I'm pretty sure that you're just calling in to poke fun at us.
Have you read the Bible, Matt?
Yeah. Do you have any idea who you're talking to?
Well,
yes, I've read it.
To an angry atheist, that's what I know I'm talking to.
I've read it many times. I've actually taught it many times. What's the point?
Well, this is my first time on the show. I really don't know you that well.
Okay.
First time.
So how can you be angry about us converting atheists if you just don't know us? Anyway, go ahead. What's the point?
People keep calling and saying they converted to atheism.
Well, they didn't really convert to atheism because there's nothing to convert to. It's just they've adopted atheist as a label that best describes the fact that they no longer believe in gods.
I think atheism is a cult.
Really?
Yes.
So how could it possibly qualify as a cult if there's no tenets, no dogma, there's nothing unifying about atheism other than the fact that none of us believe in a God?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys are the small percentage. I mean...
Yeah, and you know what? There's actually more atheists in the United States than Jews.
So there's more Christians than atheists.
Yeah, that's right. And the big thing is, so what? I mean, I don't know. You've jumped to like 3 different topics. First, you're mad because more people are abandoning their religion and adopting the atheist label, and now it's you guys are a cult. Well, when I challenge that, because there's absolutely no criteria by which atheism could be a cult, because it's not even ism. There's no positive tenets to it, and now it's, well, you guys are just a small group. Well, okay. But we're growing, isn't that? Isn't that what you called to complain about? The fact that we're growing?
Yeah, that you guys are converting people into atheism.
Yeah. So what was your deal about the Bible? Why did you bring that up?
Because the Bible, everything that it says in there is true. It's the Word of God.
Really?
I mean, look at what it says about women and men.
Yeah.
Obviously, men is stronger than women, so they keep saying it all over in the Bible.
Yeah, I'm afraid that I just don't believe you. No offense, but you're either, well, if you can't say anything nice, say goodbye. So we'll move along that way. Kyle in Abilene, how are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
If I lose track for a second, I apologize. There's some feedback. I just had one quick question, one quick comment, and then I'll get off the line and let you guys pick it around if you want to. Don was talking about the abortion legislation in Texas, and he said a couple times he was confused about what's going through this Patrick guy's head. And you might be familiar with this, but a while ago, Rachel Maddow had the I guess the CEO of the National Women's Organization on, and they were talking about how they're pushing all this legislation in multiple states, so it will eventually get challenged since there's it's 5-4 conservative on the Supreme Court. Do you guys agree with that?
I'm sorry, what? One more time?
Having a little trouble following. Something's getting pushed so that it gets challenged to the Supreme Court. What's being pushed?
All this
They're introducing
legislation.
They're introducing more and more bills and legislation about abortion because the status of the Supreme Court is such that if it's challenged, it may end up overturning it. Yes, I think that's exactly what's happening.
Okay.
And abortion is legal right now, but there's an attempt with these laws to push the envelope as much as possible and restrict abortions as much as possible and hinder them and make them as difficult as possible. And they're trying to sort of figure out where that line is. There are various lawsuits, yes, and it could be that one of these will be challenged up to the Supreme Court. And there is a complex dance there, right? If you challenge it, you want to have a case where you get a ruling kind of in your favor, a broad ruling in your favor. And right now the court may not be favorable to that.
There's actually been a number of discussions in the atheist community about some of the lawsuits that Michael Newdow's filed, because there's, essentially by continually getting shut down, he runs the risk of setting bad precedents, precedents that we have to fight in future legislation. So the game that you play when you're engaging in these battles isn't always one of being in the right, having the correct position, the balance of the court and the way the kind of the tenor of the legal system at a given time kind of dictates what you can or actually what you probably should or shouldn't do. And so I think a lot of the abortion rights activists are making use of this to their benefit. Fortunately, I think that there are some issues that are set firmly enough that they're not at immediate risk, but everything is at risk if we, continue to allow bad laws and bad precedents to be set.
I have just one more question, and then I'll get the line. I know that Jesus apparently preached divorce as a big sin. He was really explicit about that, but he didn't say anything about gay marriage. And evangelists, what's the word I'm looking for? Evangelicals. They get divorced all the time. So what do theologians say and prominent church leaders say when it comes to that contradiction?
It's going to be different from doctrine to doctrine, and actually it's Paul who talks quite a bit about divorce, which is why Catholics are very anti-divorce, and other groups aren't quite so much in opposition to it. Divorce is one of those things that it's another example of how the world outside of Christianity has managed to influence it and change what the actual positions are. It's generally discouraged, but there are enough denominations and enough people who have realized that everything doesn't fit into these little cookie-cutter boxes, and even as much as you might want to idealistically get married and stay married forever, that's not always a practical reality, especially when you have people of different beliefs, or where people are just are staying married and continuing to live miserably. None of that benefits the church at all. Which means if their theology is true, it can't possibly be benefiting their God at all. But at a minimum, it doesn't benefit the church. And as soon as it stops benefiting the church changes its position on it. All of a sudden, divorce is okay if the church is losing money and members to unhappy families.
That makes perfect sense.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We got, is it Truth Hurts?
Yeah, hey, got a question for you.
What a name.
Do you oppose gay incest?
What's that?
Do you oppose gay incest?
Gay incest?
Do I oppose gay incest? It depends. I mean, in general, among consenting adults, I really don't care if they happen to be related.
Okay, so you would support gay incest, though. How about gay polygamy?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you oppose gay polygamy?
I'm not sure what my position is on polygamy, but the gay thing on it, it doesn't make any difference. My position on polygamy or incest or marriage or whatever, all of my positions don't change just because you put the word gay in front of it.
Okay, I'm surprised.
It's called equality. You shouldn't be surprised.
Oh, okay. So you basically saying, so would you support incest, infertile incest?
I'm sorry, what?
Infertile incest. Would you support that?
Infertile incest.
Yeah.
I'm not even quite sure what you're getting at or why one should object, because I've already said that what consenting adults.
What does this have to do with atheism?
Yeah. What's this have to do with our show?
Because atheists, when it comes to marriage, not all atheists, but some, well, I would say the pro-gay atheists seem to want to try to claim that any type of marriage, if anybody wants to marry, it's their right, regardless of what type of.
No, I don't think that even amongst humanist atheists, liberal atheists who support equality, I don't think the position is as simplistic as you're putting it forward, that anybody who wants to marry for any reason. We're not necessarily advocating the rewriting of marriage laws to include, corporate marriage of in the polygamy sense, or to change the legal age of consent or anything along those lines. The only position that personally, and I'm advocating on behalf of myself, and in this sense the ACA, is that marriage is among the many rights that we offer to people that are currently being denied people based on their sexuality, and that this is wrong and it needs to change. That's it.
Is that hypocritical?
Is what hypocritical?
Because polygamous and incest couples could make the same argument that gays make.
Well, no. First of all,
No, they're not.
First of all, they're not making the same argument. But second of all, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily opposed to that. And third of all, this entire argument is really stupid because, hang on, I'm going to explain to you how it's stupid. Because we are going to draw lines on occasions. It's just a necessity. You're going to start driving. Let me finish or I'm hanging up, I swear. You're going to start driving legally at the age of 16. It's kind of an arbitrary line, but it kind of makes sense. But we can change that. We can be flexible with it. And you're going to be able to vote at 18, and you're going to be able to drink at 21. And we have these lines, and they're different in different places. But they exist. So the fact that we happen to change where the line is doesn't mean that we throw caution to the winds and remove all lines and allow everything. When we allowed interracial couples to marry, we allowed them to marry. We didn't make them pick a new word for it. We didn't make them civil partners. We said, hey, we've been denying a right here that you should have had the whole time, and we're going to correct that, and we are going to redefine things in order to allow it. And when we did that, we didn't have this cavalcade of people marrying sheep or anything absurd like that. So these nonsensical arguments that people come up with, as if they've come up with some clever counter to the gay marriage thing, are absolutely stupid, and all they do is demonstrate a prejudice and an ignorance.
And you just demonstrated a faulty analogy fallacy.
Really?
And you also you just demonstrated a faulty analogy fallacy, and you're also still been hypocritical. And you're also been biased. Now I'm going to explain how you're
a faulty analogy fallacy.
Yeah, because interracial couples are man and woman.
Oh my gosh, are you a complete idiot? Do you not realize that this used to be illegal and now it's legal? We changed the law.
Do you know what a faulty analogy fallacy is?
Sorry, what?
Do you know what a faulty analogy fallacy is?
No, because there's no such damn fallacy. It's just a flawed analogy. It's not a fallacy.
I'm going to explain to you how it is a faulty analogy fallacy.
Okay, you can explain how it's a faulty analogy, but stop using fallacy because you just sound dumber.
All right, well, you use a faulty analogy fallacy because there are major differences that you are not considering.
No. The difference is that one thing was illegal and it was made legal. Give me an argument. Go ahead.
Incest is illegal, so that's the same thing, right?
No. Okay, what do you not understand? What do you stop?
I'm sorry?
Stop and listen. What do you not understand about the slippery slope? That we can change something without allowing everything. That we could move the driving age to 15, but not allow 5-year-olds to drive.
Okay, what you failed to understand is what I'm suggesting is not a slippery slope, because I didn't say if they allow gay marriage, they should allow everything else. My point is, gay incest couples can make the same exact claim, and as a matter of fact, you just violated your own argument by saying interracial couples were once illegal, and now they're legal.
Yes.
Well, guess what? polygamy is illegal now.
Yes.
And so if you made that legal, it would be the.
It would be legal.
You're in violation of your own argument.
I'm not in violation of any damn argument. We took something that's illegal and we made it legal.
Why do atheists get so upset when we discuss gay marriage? It's
What?
like they get upset, start to hollering. And
Look, first of all, get a better phone before you call back, if you get to call back, because you're breaking up like crazy. Second of all, you're still on line. We haven't hung up. Yes, A was illegal. We made it legal without making B, C, and D legal. And it doesn't matter what you sub in for A. I didn't violate my argument because, first of all, I didn't make an argument. You asked what my position was.
I'm going to tell you how you violated your claim.
What?
You violated your claim because...
What claim have I made that I'm violating?
I'm sorry?
What claim have I made that I'm violating?
All right. You made two claims, and I'm going to tell you how one claim violated the other claim. First you claimed that interracial couples, interracial marriages were once legal.
They were once illegal, yes.
Yeah, but now they're legal.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Turned around and said, well, polygamous, it's illegal, right?
Yes.
But if I use the argument again, if I use your same exact argument, if I say, well, polygamy is illegal, just like interracial marriages were illegal, just like gay marriage is illegal. They all have the same thing in common.
Yes.
Gay marriage, interracial couples, polygamy were all illegal.
Yes.
And I can say, if they legalize polygamy, I can say I can compare that to interracial marriages too.
Yes! You absolutely could. That's the argument. That's the point. It's not a contradiction. It's a demonstration that while we have made one thing legal that used to be illegal, we can do that for other things as well, but we're not required to.
Okay, and that's how you're biased, because you're biased toward other marriages other than gay marriage, because
no,
gay incest,
no,
the polygamous.
No.
What is your argument against gay incest?
No.
What is your rational argument
Did you not listen to me at all when you first called in? First of all, I said I don't know what my position is. Are you gonna stop, or are we gonna hang up?
All right, go ahead and talk.
Did you not listen when you asked earlier? I said I don't know what my position is on polygamy. I'm still weighing it. I could see possibly making polygamy legal. So I'm not being hypocritical there because I don't have a position. But your other thing was when you asked about gay incest, and I said I don't have an objection to what two consenting adults do. I don't care if they're related. That's not an issue.
Okay. All right. So what is your, the fact that you don't know if polygamy should be legal or not, but you do know that gay marriage,
Yes, I support gay marriage. I support gay marriage, yes.
Okay, so why do you support gay marriage, but you're not supposed to about polygamy?
Because I don't see any reason to exclude two loving people from engaging in the same union that any two other loving people could, solely on the basis of gender. I think that is an absurd minimization of rights that should have been afforded long ago.
Okay, now I'm talking about polygamy. What is your rational argument against polygamy?
I told you I have not settled on a position on polygamy, and I can see, I swear I'm going to hang up on your ass.
What's holding you back?
What's holding you back? I haven't, okay, unlike some people, I don't like to make knee-jerk decisions based on gut instinct. So instead, I'm evaluating the various arguments for and against something. And when I come to a position, I will make up my mind, and it'll be based on evidence, and it'll be as morally correct as I can make it. It won't be based on an argument from ignorance. Goodbye. 6 minutes or so left in the show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be at El Arroyo after the show's over. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. Woo, I got a red shirt on today, and it's hot in the studio. Please, if you're an idiot, pick up your phone. Lou from Oklahoma City, how are you?
Hey, great, Matt Darn. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for waiting. We only got like 5 minutes left, so you have to get
okay. I'll try to make it brief. We brought up the reasons that lead to abortion.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I run an anti-teen drinking org in Oklahoma called alcoholthenarcotic.org. Half of all teen pregnancies, unwanted, caused by at least one of the participants being drunk, right? Now, I make a hobby out of hypocrisy. I've pointed out, if through the Bible there are verses left and right about drinking, okay? I started a blog called Christian Dopeheads Are All Going to Hell. Right out Corinthians. Nor thieves, nor greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor robbers will inherit the kingdom of God.
Yep.
Totally hypocrisy. And I've met with the now Lieutenant Governor here in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Totally not on board with looking at preventing teen drinking to reduce the abortion rates. Pretty cut and dry. Yeah.
So you put together this thing to try and expose one of the problems and see if you could get some of these Christians on board to curtail teen drinking. Even though, I mean, like, isn't that a good thing to do generally anyway? Is to try and eliminate the binge drinking,
responsibility is a good thing,
and the underage
we like
irresponsibility.
responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be a good idea no matter what. But you came up with an extra good reason for it, and they're not helping.
Well, here's the thing. I live in Oklahoma. 85% are Christians. Now, you got to understand that they also Too Much to Lose Org reported that half the alcohol kids get come directly from their parents. I'm enraged. I mean, when you consider friends and family, 75%. So, not only are these Christians, trying to pass laws against women's reproductive rights, they're ignoring their own values that would help. Okay, I'm saying there are things that could help. They're not doing it.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. I mean, I'd really like to. I'd really like to see the laws on like alcohol change. There's a lot of laws that I'd like to see change. And just like with the last caller, I have really good reasons for them. And the things that I haven't made up my mind on, I'll get to them.
Hey, another quick thing I want to throw in.
Sure.
I locally blogged on this subject on K4. One of the participants in the blog realized I was an atheist. I was going to meet with a senator here. And the person actually called and tried to intervene me getting a meeting with the senator. And because I'm an atheist, because, of course, atheists, we have no morals, Wow. My order is considered immoral. Yeah. But anyway, maybe you got time for one more call. I so appreciate getting a little platform on this, okay?
All right, great. Good for you.
Hey, I'm also on people in my area, speakoklahoma.com. I'm trying to get Oklahomans to start talking about this stuff, so I sincerely hope they come on and start rational discussion for it, okay?
All right, thanks a lot. And it's
actually
an interesting point because just the other day Beth and I were talking about, because of a post that JT had made, we need more redneck atheists, and I say that with love as another redneck atheist. Because this issue is about both ideas and people, and having real people, not just people with PhDs and great understanding of theology and logic and everything, but real people with real stories about who they are as an atheist and how they interact with the world is critical. We are absolutely out of time. I got to let you go. Thanks, everybody. For all the people who are asking for a report on my visit to the Stone Church, the reason I haven't talked much about it, there's nothing to say. Beth and I got up. We went to church. It was a fairly normal church service. We left. We went and had lunch and went to Half Price Books and came to the show. And it was uneventful. It wasn't like, everybody pointed and said, oh, look, there's that atheist guy. I have no idea if there was a Mark guy there or if he even, would have been there. Nothing really to say, so sorry to disappoint, but I went to church. I've done it lots of times. It's not always anything to write home about. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Oh, I should shuffle papers. It was recommended I shuffle papers during the dead time.
To look official.
As they post the credits. Look.
Do a Jon Stewart thing and spin the papers around.